Ladies and gentlemen, for the dance scene in Canada. I want to welcome, ladies. Give her a big round of applause if you guys are just tuning in tonight. The beautiful, the sexy, the oh so talented, the oh so incredible Miss Chelsea Davaolos. Welcome to Hot Topic CelebTV.com. I'm your host, Dteflon on the MIC. Welcome.
Thank you. That introduction was like everything. I'm just going to turn my volume up, make sure I can hear everything. That was lovely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. How have you been holding up, my friend? How have you been holding up throughout this crazy pandemic?
I mean, you know what? Just adapting. That's it. Just adapting every day. Literally today in BC, there was just an announcement that like everything is changing for the better, but like again today. So it's like a whole nother chapter of like, okay, now what to do? Go left, go right. So I've been on my toes for sure.
Well, the question, obviously, we're going to get into that hot topic later in regards to, in the sense of what's going on in the world right now, especially in Canada. But for you, I want to take you back to the beginning. So first, I want you to introduce yourself for the new audience that aren't familiar with you. What's your name, where you're from, and then we're going to go from there.
What is up, everybody? My name is Chelsea Davaolos. I was born in Vancouver, BC, but I moved across Canada, all around Canada. But I'm back in Vancouver. I'm a professional dancer, choreographer, mentor to many, many people, many women specifically. And I'm just here to inspire. That's it. That's what I'm here for.
So everybody has their story. Me, myself, as you may know, was an ex-dancer and choreographer myself. And everyone has their journey of how they either stumbled into the business or whether it was a passion or something they were doing as a kid. For you, how did you get into the dance world, and when did you realize that you had a passion for this?
So I always liked dancing when I was little. I did like 1 year of ballet when you're like 5 years old kind of thing. And then I was out of it. Like my parents put me in and came out. But I wanted to get into dance around 10 or 11. I actually got into taking dance classes. I really wanted to. I used to put on little dance shows with like my brothers and sisters. And I just loved it. I knew I loved it different than other kids because like I took it so much more seriously. And I just wanted to keep doing it versus other kids would miss classes and not be there. And I was like, I don't understand why you would miss a class. Like, I just loved it so much, but I didn't know what that was. Obviously at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, I still didn't know what that love was, but I just knew I was so committed to it. And nothing made me happier, nothing, than immersing myself into whatever I could, like dance related. I didn't do many classes for most of my life though. I really just took hip hop classes in a studio until I graduated at 17 from a dance studio. And then joined a hip hop crew in Vancouver, like hip hop crew / training company. We performed in the States and here. And I was a hip hop dancer only for many, many years. And then I turned, 19 and I was like, oh, there's a Pussycat Doll group. I've never done like a sexy thing. So I tried a Pussycat Doll group here in Vancouver. And then from there I got hired to do a burlesque company. Professional performer, so not training anymore, but actually just performing. And I mean, you put me in fishnets at 19 years old. It was like the rest is history. You know what I mean?
Did you ever? I mean, like for you, like I started off as a go-go dancer. That was how I started off in the game, and literally was doing the whole podium thing, and then eventually got noticed, and that's a whole other story in itself. But for you, like making that transition from, because I mean, I know, of course, as well, like in the hip hop dance world, the freedom of expression through your art, because you know what, it's like when you're an artist per se, as a hip hop artist, as a freestyle hip hop dancer, you can sort of come up with your own styles, and sometimes things that sort of just happen where you're like, wait a minute, did I just do that? And then you suddenly do it again, and then you suddenly do it again, and before you know it, like it becomes part of your routine where you do something that nobody else can do. But then having to transition per se into the technical aspect of learning the game on a choreographic standpoint, what did you find the challenges between the two?
I mean, that's a great question, because you're right. Hip hop definitely has a very like expansive freedom in movement, where dancing in heels specifically, there's ballet technique behind it. And I didn't come from a technical background. I never trained in jazz and ballet and all these types of styles. But when I started training in heels, I found something that I hadn't felt before. And at that time, there wasn't really heels training. Like we weren't doing like across the floor technique. Like now heels training is like, you're literally doing like ballet training in heels. Like it's wild and it's so incredible. But when I started that, it was just, sometimes I don't like this answer when I say it because people are like, oh, you suck. But it kind of came naturally for me. And I know like some people are like, damn it. You know, it kind of came naturally going into heels.
But you know what, as a dancer, I think everyone sort of it becomes naturally. Just like we sort of naturally learned how to first crawl, then we naturally learned how to walk, then we naturally learned how to somewhat maybe have some rhythm, and then before you know it, it was dancing. I mean, I've always said, to me, like, as a dancer, dance is, I don't really think there's categories, but I believe that everyone has a dancer in them. It's just some people are afraid to express that dance for other people to see. So for you, like, what was it something where, did you instantly, as you said, like, you didn't have any formal training? When did you ever have somebody like either encourage you or say, you know what, hey, you got some talent, maybe you should, or was it something you were like, I'm just going to do it and make my own path with it?
So when I went from hip hop and I transitioned into doing like a heels type group, I had somebody, this lady's name is Lee Torlage, and she ran the Candy Girl Cabaret here in Vancouver many years ago. And she saw me in my training program and was like, I'd like to hire you as one of my actual dancers.
Okay.
So if it wasn't for her, like, I don't know where I'd be, because she took me from a training group into performing. So she was just teaching me the art of seduction through actual booking me for jobs. So I was put right onto the job instead of all these training courses. Like, I train more now as a professional dancer than I ever did starting out, which is wild to think about. But so she pulled me in, taught me what I needed to know in terms of like, but I found my home in my underwear, really, which is wild because I had so many, I was always a hip hop dancer, right? Sweatsuits, like, I'm literally wearing a sweatsuit. I wear sweatsuits 24/7, but as soon as I put on like these outfits, it's just, I felt at home. And then, so yeah, she brought me into her professional group, and I just felt so alive in that style of dance.
So, like, for you, like, growing up, like, was there ever somebody that inspired you that, like, the first time you saw them dance, where you were like, you know what, this is somebody that I look up to, or somebody that, everyone has their inspiration where they get it from someone. Was that the story for you? Did you have somebody that you, saw on TV that made you go, wow, I think I want to do that?
So funny enough, like, Britney Spears has been my like idol always, like her dancing and everything. And I used to dance around my room to her music. And then the movie Honey is my favorite movie with Jessica Alba. And then seeing Jessica Alba, whether she was a dancer or not, to me, that's who she was. She was real life to me. So seeing Jessica
My boy
Alba,
Sean Desmond was in that.
Yeah. My husband's best friend, right? He toured with him for a long time. And so anyway, seeing Jessica Alba in her sneakers and be like sexy but still badass, I loved that. I just loved it so much. And then Britney Spears, oh my God, with her sexiness, like, combine those two, and that's really who I followed. And then there's one other person, sadly she passed away at 17 years old, but I was a lot younger than her. And so when I was in like 12, 13, I used to idolize this one girl. She was a dancer, and she just had this like essence about her, and she was, again, only 17, but to me she seemed like 30 years old. And I just used to love the way that she, like, dance was everything to her. I saw her in high school, but she was between dance classes and everything. And I was like, I want that for myself. And when I went back to my childhood and did some journaling, I realized that all the people that I admired in terms of like fellow, students or movies, it was all these women who were confident and they were dancers. So the short answer is Britney Spears and Jessica Alba were my people.
So for you, like, I mean, I know that you've worked with some great top professionals in the industry. What would you say for you has been your highlight moment in your career since you started?
Well, so dancing at the Much Music Video Awards was like definitely the highlight for me, especially, and Sport Check, but specifically the Much Music Video Awards, but more so than just because it was really cool and it's Much Music and Fifth Harmony, but more than that, because when I was younger living in Vancouver, to me, the Much Music Video Awards were like the be all end all. Like, they were like the Grammys. Like, they were like the biggest thing in my world, right? And I didn't know that it was even ever attainable. And I literally found a post from so many years ago being like, my main goals in life. And the one was the Much Music Video Awards. So I always used to say to my mom, like, if I ever get on the stage at the Much Music Video Awards, like, I've made it. And then I did it. And I was like, it was so, I could like cry thinking about how that was like my biggest dream. And I can't believe I did it. And to a lot of people, it wasn't even that big of a job. But to me, it was like everything because of what it symbolized. It symbolized this like little girl that had a dream. And then now I've leveled up my dreams. You know what I mean? But
of course. I mean, I think everybody, when you get into this business, I mean, I've been in it now 26 years, and, you know, people are like, oh, you've done everything. You've been on the Golden Globes, you've been on the Oscars, and you've been, you know, the Emmys. And I'm like, yeah, it's great being there in the sense of working wise. But once you're there, it's like, okay, the next goal should be, well, I want to be there, but accepting an award, not just showing up and being at that space around. Yes, you know, it's great. It's a great energy. But to me, I think people, a lot of times, I think in the business is, you know, where they reach that pinnacle and then they're like, okay, well, that's it. And to me, it's like, you've always got to be striving for more and more and more. If this is truly what you are passionate about, you know, it's about, as you say, to keep leveling up and finding new things to add on to your resume. So like for you, like after achieving that, you know, and achieving that accomplishment, where did that help your career project forward, or did it take a little bit while before you to get to that next level?
No, I felt like one of the reasons why that job was so important to me is because I felt like if I could get on a big enough stage, I feel like I could inspire people to go, if she can do it, I can do it. So that's why I strive to want to be on the biggest stages possible, so that, of course, for the feeling and accomplishment, but also so that I can inspire people to look at me and go, she never gave up, so maybe I won't give up. You know what I mean? And so when I did the Much Music Video Awards, I didn't just get one artist, I got two. And then that year, and then I got to do it a second time, which was crazy. But it definitely like boosted my career for sure. I got to work with really just different professionals, American artists, which I hadn't at that point worked for any American artists, I don't think. So big American artists, just a different experience. And it gave me a different level of experience and knowledge to share with people. And it made me way more hungry. I feel like I climbed, and when I got to what I thought was the top, I got there and I realized there's a whole new world up here, and I was ready for it, you know? So it wasn't like I got there and plateaued. It's like I got there, realized there's another level and another level. And so it really just made me that much more hungry and more excited.
What would you say though, for you, like in your story career of dancing, what would you say you have found your biggest challenge?
I've been my biggest challenge.
In what way?
I've dealt with a lot of like, I was always just really hard on myself, and like, which we all are. So what I'm about to say is not going to be any shocker to a lot of people. But I was what I realize now is very like imposterous thoughts of like, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not this, maybe I'm not that. So what I did for many years of my life was I stayed within a bubble of only things I knew I would be really good at. So I protected myself by not stepping outside the box and trying new things, going to auditions, submitting for different jobs, and just saying, who knows what will happen? Like, I kept myself very much so in a small box of like, I know I'll be good at these jobs or this, whatever, so I'm going to stay here. And so I don't regret anything. I think I am where I'm supposed to be. But that is definitely something that was challenging for me, was my own thoughts and my own fears and my own insecurities. They definitely held me back a lot from trying new things, or just putting myself out there in new ways, trusting myself, you know, so it was confidence, self-esteem. It was a lot of that, and not sharing that with anybody, holding it in, not telling people like I'm insecure, or, you know, I didn't talk about those things. I just kept them all in and tried to stay like I knew what I was doing, you know, but so I'd say I definitely got in my own way a lot, but that's very common, obviously.
Well, I think the thing is, and when it comes down to it, in a sense, number one is that like I find a lot of people, which I've never really understood, who get into the entertainment business, have a hard time with self-promotion. And I'm like, you should be your biggest cheerleader, like before anybody. Like you should celebrate every win that you have and tell people about it, you know, and let people know, hey, this is what I've done. Like, this is because, again, at the end of the day, when someone says, as you said, you want to inspire people, what's the biggest inspiration by literally telling people, like, look, like, I did this, and I didn't come from, whether you came from wealth, didn't come from wealth, whether you came from poverty, whatever your situation was, but you're showing people that, like, it starts, and I always try to use the example. Think about the person who opened up McDonald's. The very first time that thought came into their head, they said, I want to open up a McDonald's. And they bought the building, but it was just a building. But they said, okay, you know what we need to do here to get this thing going? So they made a cheeseburger. And they sold that first cheeseburger. And they sold another one. And they sold another one. Before you know it, they sold 1 billion. But then once that first cheeseburger went through, they're like, oh, we need to make a Big Mac. And they continue to keep adding on to that recipe. So I always believe, like, when you're in the entertainment business, it's about adding on to that recipe. So, like, for you, as you said, like, having that self-doubt, was it more self-doubt, or was it more lack of self-promotion that was holding you back, you feel?
I believe it was not self-promotion. I just don't believe at that age I knew what to do. I just didn't know how to promote myself. It was lack of knowledge. It was lack of experience. I didn't have the voice I have now, right? I believe, for me, not everybody, there's 17-year-olds that know exactly how to promote themselves, right? Like, that are very aware. But I feel like I personally needed to go through the trials, tribulations, insecurities, not having a voice, learning to have a voice, unsure what this voice could be used for. Like, I feel like I needed to go through all of that to learn how, and also values, right? Like, I didn't know what my boundaries and values and my morals were. And I had to go through a lot to figure out what those were. And now that I feel like I'm more aware, now I'm not just now as in like this year, but like the last few years of my life, I would say, when I started doing my company, let's say 5-6 years ago. But even then, like, I've just grown so much more. So for me, it was experience.
Okay.
I needed experience. So it wasn't self-promotion. It was, I mean, I used to, not a lot of people know I was insecure. Like, I used to make flyers and go and pass flyers out to get people into my classes. Like, I was a go-getter for sure. That's how I've gotten here, is I've been a go-getter. But I also, within being a go-getter, I was just more of a go-getter than your average person, but I still held back a lot and only kept myself doing things I knew I would be good at.
Which is surprising to me.
Insecure.
It's surprising because when I see your energy all the time and how you're just, like I always say, you're like a bee, just moving around, like, on every level. Like, to me, just to hear that you had any insecurities or any, in a sense, of self-doubt. So how did you, I mean, what made you, or how did you find a way to push through that?
I just wanted to feel different. Like, I knew, the thing is I think a lot of people, once you become self-aware of, you have a feeling and you don't want it anymore, what are you going to do about it? You know, and a lot of people they assume their feelings and their experiences are the only factual thing that they can live within, but we can change anything we want. And I was so much this way of, like, insecure, unsure, but a part of me was like, I have so much more to offer. I knew I did. I knew it wasn't on my abilities. I knew I could do more, but there was this wall of just emotions and insecurities and traumas and all these things. And it was either stop dancing so you don't have to face those things and you can just be whomever you want to be and live in a box, or face them, work on them, get messy, admit your faults, admit your wrongs, see where we're at, put yourself out there, say fuck it. Like, I just really had to do the work. And now at 32, there's a lot of people that would be like, you were insecure, or you know, and we all still go through our ups and downs with self-esteem, but I feel like it just was maturity, and also making the conscious choice that if I want to be in this industry, I really have to work on myself, because it's a tough one to be in. You know what I mean?
Well, so, it's an industry that you have to understand. It's an industry that we hear, the word no more than anybody other industry. It's an industry that's full of rejection. It's a industry that's what I always say, you know, this business can give you everything, but it can take away just as quickly. Like, you can be on a high and everything's going great, but when you get to that top level, everyone either coming at you to knock you off that pedestal, or they just clap as you fall down, and they don't even want to help you up. And it's like, you have to I always say, like, the industry, when it comes to the entertainment game, it's 40%, I would say 40% doing the work, in the sense of talent-wise, The other like 30% per se is like, you know, actually like, as you say, getting out of your own way. And I think but the most important, which is the last percentage, would be the mental, because the mental to me is what, you know, is to fight with those thoughts. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever had this feeling when you're dancing, when you really get into, I know it was for me, like when I was out there on stage performing or whatever, and you close your eyes and you feel that music and you feel that pump in your heart, it's like the whole world around you just stopped. Like you just feel the only thing you're focused on is in that moment. You're like, if I could just stay in this moment forever and absorb this and realize how free the feeling is when you're on stage. And I'm sure you've done it when you've been performing, where you've been in a crowd and you catch that little kid, or you catch that person in the corner of your eye who's completely like locked in on you, and they're like mesmerized by like either the way your feet are moving, or the way your arms are moving, the way your body is moving, and they're like, "Mommy, I want to do that," and you just know, in that moment you touched and you connected with somebody, and know that that you're like, I've truly made a difference, even for that